Hey, welcome to Croc Chat. I'm Mark Perpetua, and today we're going to the bookshelf. In a previous episode, I recently went over how to tell an alligator from a crocodile. And I also discussed why the hundreds of ways all over the internet are often incomplete and don't work among all species. So today, I thought we'd chat about a few books that you should add to your collection to help you better understand these amazing reptiles we call crocodilians. I've had many people tell me they didn't even know we had crocodiles living in the US. I've even had people tell me that's because they must have become invasive. But the truth is, the American crocodile has always been part of South Florida. In fact, South Florida is the only place where you'll find alligators and crocodiles living together in the wild. So I thought it would only make sense that we start with a book on the American crocodile. This book not only covers the American crocodile, but it focuses primarily on the American crocodile as part of Florida. So it's properly named Florida's Crocodiles, and it's written by a guy named Charles LaBeouf. Charles worked for the U.S. Fish and Wildlife Service for many, many years at a place called the J.N. Ding Darling National Wildlife Refuge, which is located on Sanibel Island, Florida, and it happens to be home to American crocodiles. So Charles was able to become very, very familiar with these animals through his work. And his research also takes this book in an excellent direction of the rich history of the crocodile throughout Florida. If you're looking for a book that covers crocodilian biology, this one will tell you about how the crocodile lives, why it prefers certain habitats, what they eat, how they grow, their reproduction. It's an excellent reference to learning about the American crocodile. But going over the history of crocodiles, he also discusses a time when they were captured for display in zoos, a time when they were hunted for their skins, and of course, now that they're threatened, the need for their conservation. So as the only species of crocodile that lives in the US, this is a must add to your collection, whether again as a piece of reference material or as a book that I believe the way it's written, you'll enjoy reading from cover to cover. Another book I have with me focuses on the American alligator. This book is Alligators by Kent Vliet. Kent is a professor of biology at the University of Florida, but he just happens to be the world's foremost expert on the American alligator. I became familiar with Kent's work years ago in the late 1980s when National Geographic featured his work on a special called Realm of the Alligator. So this book, all these years later, is a culmination of the life spent learning and studying the great reptiles of Florida. This is a book that will cover just about any question you could possibly ask. It goes over natural history, it goes over ecology, it covers conservation. Kent tells you about his beginning and how he got started in alligator research. And again, the perspective of it being written from firsthand research just makes this book a must-have. Not only is it well written with a wealth of information, but it's covered with great photography as well by photographer Wayne Lynch. So if you're a nature lover, this is an enjoyable read from cover to cover. Again, an awesome source of information as a resource to have on your shelf. Or for me, just knowing who wrote it made this a must-have for my collection. In fact, I was lucky enough to catch up with Kent at a crocodilian conservation event in Florida, and I was able to have my copy signed firsthand. If you like learning about crocodilians, then you're going to want to take it a little further than just knowing the difference between an American alligator and an American crocodile. So I really think you're going to like this third book. This is a guide to identifying crocodilians of the world, and it's written by husband and wife team Jen and John Brugan. Jen is a digital creator, and John is the director of the St. Augustine Alligator Farm in Florida. And they're both crocodilian biologists with years of experience in world travel. And they put together an excellent book that's not only going to teach you how to tell a crocodile from an alligator or an alligator from a caiman or even a gharial, but it is detail oriented enough that it's going to teach you how to identify every species of crocodilian in the world today. It's a book that includes a glossary with comparisons and terms so that even non-biologists can find this easy to understand if they care enough to learn about the variation among every species. So I found this to be an excellent book, and it really takes your knowledge up a notch in order to be able to know not only alligator from crocodile, but what makes the American crocodile different from a Nile crocodile, or a Nile crocodile different from a saltwater crocodile. So if you're detail oriented and you really want to learn the difference among every species, then this is another must have for your herp book collection. All right, so the last book I have for you is Alligators and Crocodiles in Nature and in Art, and it just happens to be written by me. That's right, I wrote a book. About a year ago, I released this book on Amazon in October, and while I've always wanted to write a book, I often thought, what do I have that will make my book different? So I figured after 40 years, I might have a little bit of a story to tell. So there's a chapter in here on my background, my education, how I got started, as well as throughout the book, my experiences in dealing with several species of crocodilian in captivity. But I also wanted to be able to show another side of me and my work with crocodilians. And if you didn't know it, in addition to working with them and teaching about them, I also love to draw them. So I was able to do several illustrations for this book, including a chapter on all 27 species of crocodilians. But it's not just my drawings or about me. There's information here on general crocodile and alligator biology. There's information here on reproduction and conservation. And as well as my own personal drawings, there is also some wonderful photography. I was lucky enough to have several contributors share along with my own photography. Joe Wazalewski, a crocodile expert from Florida. John Brugan, again from St. Augustine Alligator Farm. A good friend of mine, Scott Borden, who's traveled extensively, as well as Gary Myers. Gary Myers is a professional photographer who lives in the Atchafalaya Basin area of Louisiana, and his expertise is photography of the swamp, which of course includes some amazing shots of the American alligator. So I really feel that my book has a little bit of everything in there to offer: crocodilian biology, photography, and some original artwork. At the end, it also explains how I've had the opportunity to share my artwork with a conservation organization called CrocFest, in which some of my artwork was actually auctioned off to help them raise money to go towards conservation projects for endangered crocodilians. Well, I didn't have an alligator or a crocodile with me today, but I really wanted to share these books with you. And I know a lot of people say, well, who reads books with all the information available through the internet? But I find every time I read a book, I come across something that I wouldn't have thought to search using Google. So if you're a person who loves the natural world, especially crocodilians, I hope you give one, if not all, of these books a try. As I mentioned earlier, they're all available on Amazon, but I'm going to leave a direct link to my book in the description and the comments. And I promise in the future, we'll get back to more live crocodilians. So if you like the channel, please make sure you subscribe. The more support I can get for Croc Chat, the more support I can give going forward to croc conservation. And once again, thanks for watching. Till next time, later, Gator.